Hello, this is Rose Munoz, and opening the Board of Education meeting on June 28th. Is there any public comments for closed session? Okay, seeing that there's none, we will go ahead and adjourn to closed session and return at 5:30. Thank you. Welcome to the board meeting of June 28th. First, we will go ahead and start with an introduction about the language access.
Good evening. We have Spanish interpretation available. We have headsets in the back table, and if anybody would like to listen to the Spanish interpretation. And we also have ASL interpretation and Spanish interpretation through the Zoom app. So we have the video as well here in the back room. Tenemos interpretación al español disponible por si alguien gusta escuchar la presentación en español. Gracias.
Thank you. Mr. Vance, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please rise and face the flag. Once again, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so announcement of closed session action. From the last meeting, in closed session, last meeting on June 14th, the board took action to approve the May 24th final settlement agreement and general release between parents and the Santa Barbara Unified School District for case number 2021-22 SE02-EH, pursuant to which the district has agreed to fund, reimburse, or provide educational services to the student, and the student's parents have agreed to release claims against the district in exchange for educational services as specified in the agreement. And the board vote was unanimous on that. And today, from today's closed session, there was no action taken. So that brings us to the superintendent's report, which will be given by Mr. Vance.
Thank you, Board President Munoz. Good afternoon, board members, students, families, community members, and cabinet. We'll go ahead and do our superintendent report for June 28th, 2022. I'll be presenting 5 items to you specifically. One will be recognitions, updates, new staff, of course, our unsung hero, and a special thank you. Next slide. All right, some of you might know this person. Last meeting, we recognized a few members of our district staff who will be leaving us, and we wanted to take this opportunity to recognize a few more. So I would like to bring up Brian Rouse. Brian Rouse in the house. So, Brian, this certificate is awarded to Brian, to you, for 7 outstanding years of service to students, staff, families, and community of Santa Barbara Unified School District. We commend your innovation, creativity, and of course your technology knowledge, which was a key component of supporting educators, families, and leaders through the most unprecedented times. May your journey be filled with happiness. And Brian, I just have to say that I've learned so much from you. And I also know with Brian that you've told many of us that he was only planning on being here for 5 years. So, but you ended up being here for 7, and we feel very fortunate, especially during this time, or during the time that we really needed you the most. So, with heartfelt thanks, thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next slide, please. And we have Mauricio Ortega. our Director of Educational Technology. So Mauricia, it says this certificate is awarded to you for outstanding 8 years of service to the students, staff, families, and community of Santa Barbara Unified School District. We commend your efforts to support the achievement of all students, your supportive leaders to be their best during such unprecedented times. May you continue to thrive, my friend.
Thank you.
And you might know, yeah, sorry, here we go. You know Mr. Ortega as Principal Ortega, starting, and then we were so fortunate to bring you here. And you'll be heading down to San Diego County as Chief Tech Officer at a school district down there. And of course, if you ever want to come back to Santa Barbara, we're happy to have you. So,
Okay.
all right,
Will do.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Next slide, please. And the last person who wasn't able to join us tonight is Tiffany Carson, our College and Career Readiness Coordinator. She's been in the district for 14 years. She was a special ed teacher. She was known as our one of the APs at Santa Barbara High School who worked with Dr. Becchio, right? And as well as being a coordinator for the district. She worked and was just incredible resource with career tech ed, counselors, as well as working with our community business organizations. So we'd like to thank Tiffany as she heads off to go back to school. She's going to earn her master's degree. So, and we're waiting for her to come back with more packed in her brain. So we wish Tiffany the best of luck. Next slide. And at this time, I'd like to bring up Dr. Becchio to recognize 6 of our employees who came out of retirement to help us through one of the most challenging school years this year.
All right, so we called on this year and last year actually called on some old friends. And when I say old, I want to make sure everyone knows they're not old. They're retired, but they're not old. They are long time, I should say, friends of ours. We have a couple here that we wanted to recognize. These folks, Fred Razo, Fred Madrigal, Dave Hodges, Dave Hetyunk, Jorge Fulco, and Donna Ronzoni answered the call when we needed them, and they came out of retirement to help us at our schools and at our district office. So I wanted to take a moment for all of us to appreciate the group of these folks. If you would join me in giving them a round of applause. And then joining us this evening, I see that Dave Hetyunk is here. I'd actually like to hand Dave a bouquet of flowers. Dave, come on up. Dave, you did excellent work for us while you were an employee here, and then you did incredible support for us this past year in facilities when we needed someone to step into multiple positions. So we appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I believe also able to join us this evening is Fred Razo. Fred, you're here. Fred, come on up. So Fred worked at a couple of our school sites. Most recently, though, he stayed with us at Goleta Valley Junior High and filled in that dean role. It was all year pretty much, wasn't it? From October forward. So from October all the way to the end of the year, he held down that position for us. We appreciate you, and here you go. Thank you. All right. And I believe the rest, I don't see anyone else here. I think the rest of the individuals were not able to make it this evening. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Becchio. Next slide. So providing updates to, the first one is we met on Friday, June 17th with SBTA as well as SBUSD administrators from schools as well as the district to discuss teacher concerns regarding student behavior. Specifically, they wanted to revisit the district's in-class cell phone policy. So they provided a presentation that included survey results from about 120 teachers, which clearly showed that they were in support of some sort of change with the cell phone policy that would actually put limits of use of the cell phone during class. So with that being said, Kenya, our new Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, and I will be working with a team of teachers to craft a revised policy, and we'll also work with ETS on developing lessons on digital citizenship for schools. And we'll start that when Kenya starts working here actually on Friday. As well, we'll be reaching out to parents and students to get their feedback about the revised policy and make any recommended additions to it or edits. So that way we can release the policy right before school starts during mid-August. So that's what we're working on with the cell phone policy. Next slide. So Dr. Maldonado and I met with Apple representatives last week to discuss the concerns about the screen time app and how to use it with our iPads. We ended up having actually an Apple representative is going to come down during the second week of July for the entire week. And he's going to work with us on this process and looking at how we can best work with Jamf as well as screen time, because like the way the technology is used, we have to be careful that we don't lock students out inadvertently. So there are various things that we have to work through, and we need that expertise. On top of that, we have, he's going to be coming down, Alex Trahan is his name, and he comes from being a chief tech officer at another district, and he's actually worked through the issues of cell phone policies. So he's also going to give us some guidance with that as well while he's here. So that will be during the week of July 11th. Next slide. We've been in conversations with the city of Goleta, and where it stands right now is that Craig Price gave us some guidance regarding the MOU, and so we passed that along to the city. Their legal department is really finalizing the MOU, and they have assured that our new model will be in place by July 1st, and the funding will be expected to continue. So that's where we are with this. Next slide. Last Thursday and Friday, we had our leadership culmination meeting. With that, we had our principals, assistant principals. We actually had managers of classified staff showing up to this meeting, as well as we had our two new assistant superintendents. We had Dr. Monroe and Dr. Sheffield join us to actually all of us starting to work together. As part of our two-day event, we actually solicited feedback from our colleagues to really start to think about how we want to proceed in the upcoming school year and how we can improve things. During that time, we also participated with a healing art activity with the artist Luke Lamar. If you notice in the back, there are two paintings there. One painting was actually created by all of us who were at the Institute or at our culmination meeting on Thursday and Friday. First one on the right behind Sandra, that was the purging. So all of the things that we had to deal with this year and all of the pain and all of everything that you could imagine was represented by that artwork that we created. And then on Friday, if you look at behind the back wall, that work was created by all of us. Again, what he ended up doing was putting goggles on our eyes that you couldn't see, sort of like the Star Wars Jedi training. And so what we did was we have to envision the world that we would like to go in towards, and that's what that artwork represents. So we did that. We also did some mindfulness work with Ismael Huerta. We did a brainstorming session. We did a We Are Unified branding session with Nick Masuda, our Chief Communications Officer, as well as we reviewed with Heidi Harvey our LCAP goals, which was great because we did it with both our certificated and classified management. And then we reviewed data outcomes for that. Next slide. On Friday, we had two of our students be guest speakers. We had Kavya, as you know, Kavya, who will be joining us. I saw her come in, which was fabulous, by the way. Ella McClare also joined us. Actually, you both reminded us of the importance of connection, right? Building strong relationships with our teachers and the staff in the schools and how important that is, and not to take it for granted. As well as, ultimately what a difference we all make in the lives of our students, and just to be really aware of that, and what difference, both positive and negative, too. So, and spoke so eloquently about that, so thank you. And then afterwards, we worked with SWIFT staff to start our second phase of this multi-tiered system of support. So we have now two cohorts. We have cohort 1, which is our new schools going into the upcoming year. And then we have cohort 2, which is our schools that did it this year going into next school year. So this will be their second year. That will cover all of our schools working with SWIFT. So we worked with them for the entire day on Friday. Last slide, or not last slide, but last slide, part of the Institute. At the end, we celebrated our outgoing district administrators, our colleagues and our friends who will be leaving the district and starting new chapters in their career. Of course, we had to do it by playing their baseball walk-on, or what we would call their walk-off songs. We played them, and we just had a wonderful time. As you can see, we made a bridge, then we were just thanking them individually. So that's how we ended that Friday. At this time, next slide, I would like to invite Lynn Sheffield to join us via Zoom. Lynn is our new Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools, and she spent the end of last week with her staff, as I had mentioned. And it was really great I really enjoyed getting to know her, and many of us really enjoyed learning more about her, and we're looking forward to her joining us. Lynn.
Good evening, everyone. I'd first like to say good evening, Board President, the school board, Mr. Vince, and Cabinet. I am very excited to be coming to Santa Barbara Unified School District. I'm Dr. Lynn Sheffield, and as I've studied the district, I've just been very excited about seeing what I can bring to the district, as well as seeing all the accomplishments that the district has made and taking them to the next level. I truly enjoyed the opportunity to spend time with the administrators and their staff. And then I was just blown away on Friday, hearing the students and that student voice. It's so important. And I want to be a part of what Santa Barbara is bringing to the table. I see that you have really embraced the ideas of equity and inclusion. And I feel like it is so important for our students to understand that in today's world and to be successful. And I want to be that one that helps work with the school sites to make sure that happens. So I want to thank you all for bringing me in, and I look forward to an amazing time in Santa Barbara.
Thank you so much. We look forward to having you join us and bringing that amazing work. So next, I would like to invite one of our own here who has started off teaching, and he was an assistant principal at a school, and now is our new principal at San Marcos High School, Daryl Holdren. That's right, no stranger to this campus, having graduated as a Royal, no less, and as part of the Athletics, I didn't know this, Athletics Hall of Fame. Daryl, you never told me. Daryl.
That's usually the first thing I say.
Turn right on the microphone right here. There you go.
Got it. Ooh, very nice. Good evening, board. Thank you for having me. Good evening, Mr. Venz and Cabinet. I want to thank you very much for appointing me to this position. As you probably know, I was born and raised in Santa Barbara. I attended San Marcos. My parents attended San Marcos. And through the diligence and the inspiration and hard work of my teachers and coaches, I was able to go to Brown University and return to town to be a teacher. I taught in the district for 16 years at San Marcos, and from there I became an administrator. For the last 3 years I've been an assistant principal at Dos Pueblos, and I'm going to miss those folks dearly, and we'll be collaborating throughout the district. I wouldn't be able to take this step without the support of my wife and my daughter, who are awesome, and I know you know that, Dr. Natalie Holdren and Liv, who's a 4th grader at Adams this year. And just want to say I'm excited and honored, and after, this will be my 21st year in the district this year, and it all feels like it's just meant to be, and I really appreciate the support I'm getting from all over in the community, the friends and family, and from you all, of course. So thank you, and looking forward to doing my best over there.
Thank you. Next slide. So we have a new principal at Santa Barbara Junior High School. Many of you know Dan DuPont, who was serving as AP at Santa Barbara High School. He will be joining us during the July board meeting. So, next slide. As you know, Dr. Maldonado has a thing called the Unsung Hero. And so we received a message from Desmond Ho, our Operations and Sustainability Coordinator, who sent a message to Dr. Maldonado. And many of you know JJ. I've been here for a year and a half, and I mean, JJ's incredible, and that's all I can say about him because he's so good at what he does. Desmond wanted to mention this. JJ works extra hard and is the glue at the facilities department. He has taken the time to establish great working relationships with both management and on-the-ground staff. JJ is typically one of the first people to arrive at 6 a.m. and one of the last to leave, typically putting in 10 to 12 hours a day. If anyone, both site and staff, or both site staff and the people working under him, has any questions about facilities at any site, he would have the answer or at least know someone who does. When things come up, he is more than happy to drop what he is doing and really help out. He cares deeply about both the well-being of the staff and maintaining facilities because he knows that both are vital to student learning and success. He gives it his all every day, and I can personally say that without him, I would not have had the successes that I've had with my projects. So that is the JJ we all know and love. And I would also say, it just reminds me of the long day when we had a problem with the water and gas at Goleta Valley Junior High School the other day, and he was there till 6 or 7 o'clock at night addressing that. So I do know that he's totally dedicated and also cares about the safety and well-being of our kids and our staff. So can we give a round of applause to JJ? And the last thing I wanted to bring up was a special thank you. And so, of course, Dr. Maldonado wanted to be here tonight specifically because of this, but couldn't. So she sent me a message that I'm going to read to you, Dawson, from her heart. I am sad that I'm unable to present today to recognize Mr. Dawson Kelly, the first student board member for Santa Barbara Unified School District. Dawson is a remarkable young man who shows incredible wisdom beyond his age. He has taught me the importance of recognizing mental health and self-care as a priority. I admire his tenacious support of student voice and his collaboration in ensuring that we consistently center student needs. He always asked the right questions and advocated with the needs of all stakeholders in mind. He understands the need to bring opposing viewpoints bring opposing viewpoints together so that we can all work for the betterment of our district. Dawson, I believe that your goal to bring mental health as a required class in schools will someday be brought forth by legislators, and I look forward to all of the amazing accomplishments you have before you. Thank you for your incredible year of service as a student member during this most unprecedented of times. Dr. Maldonado.
Dawson Kelly, in appreciation to our first student board member. I was very fortunate to be part of the board when you came on. You have done an amazing job ensuring that the voices of all our students are heard, taking the time to reach out to students and give us your feedback, their feedback, share with us your perspective on the district and the many issues that are presented in our meetings. Your background in the many student groups and your presence on the board have demonstrated that your future in leadership, with an emphasis on inclusivity and being so down to earth, just makes you so amazing. Thank you. I would also like to share the words of Ms. Sims-Moten, who wasn't able to be here tonight. Please pass on my best and thanks to Dawson for his time, commitment, and leadership as a student board member. I appreciate his insight and willingness to bring students together to address and solve issues. Thank you, Dawson. All the best in whatever you endeavor next. As you have shown brightly throughout your term, your future will only be brighter. Thank you.
It's my turn to chime in and just thank you, Dawson. I can't believe that the year has passed. To say we're going to miss you is an understatement. You've become part of this board, such an integral part of this board that sometimes, even though you're so good about bringing the student perspective forward, sometimes when it's 12 in the morning, I forget that you're a student and that you have to go home and get ready for school the next morning. You have an incredible natural leadership, and I can't wait to see where that takes you. Your attitude has been remarkable because this has been a tough time to be in public education, to be on this board, and I think you struck an incredible balance of staying true to what you firmly believe, but also have a very optimistic attitude, and I really respect you for that and look forward to working with you in other ways. Good luck.
Dawson, I had the privilege of starting with you last summer, and we toured the schools together. We visited the elementary schools, the Summer of Learning, and that was quite a joy, quite an experience. You remind me every single day of our district, the product of our district, the work that the teachers do every single day, and the result here that we have with you, with your leadership. And you have the greatest gift of bringing people together, of considering every point of view, and being hard on the issue and soft on the person. And that's quite a gift and a leadership skill that I know that you will develop. When I think of the future, and with you, Dawson, part of leading the future, I know the future is in good hands. You will positively impact the world. I know, I have no doubt. And when you're at the Oval Office, in January, at that speech, I will be there. So thank you for giving up your time. Thank you for always bringing the student voice. And most of all, thank you for your kindness. It's very, very much appreciated, and I'm so grateful that I got to work with you, and I will miss you.
I know I speak for the whole board when I say in this past year, it not only was a very difficult year, but we also learned so much and benefited so much from the wisdom and voice of numerous students who came and spoke to us or wrote to us over the school year. And we are so much better for this. It helps us understand the impact of every discussion and every decision that we make has on the people that we serve, and that is the students. And we have learned the most from you, Dawson. You have come to every meeting completely engaged. You always did your homework. You sometimes would call or text me when you had a question or you just wanted to run an idea by me. You also did informal surveys of students, also teachers and parents too, I think, in order just to understand how people were thinking and make sure that you were expressing student voice accurately. But almost more important to me is that you have been so easy for us to work with. You were always professional in your demeanor, but totally approachable and friendly and good-natured and understanding of this commitment. We all believe that you are destined for great things, Dawson, and we will be forever grateful that you were our first student board member. I'm proud to say that I will always be proud to say that I was the president when you joined the board, and I'm also proud to say that I was your principal when you started kindergarten at Peabody Charter. So I can't wait to see your achievements and your accomplishments in the future, and wish you the best as you lead the student body government next year at San Marcos. All the best.
Should we go around the front? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Just so you know, he's not done. He has tonight.
Not leaving yet. Board members, this concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Okay, and if there are, board comments, certainly want to give opportunities to my fellow board members. Okay. Ms. Capps?
Thank you. I just wanted to add my personal congratulations to Mr. Ortega and Mr. Rouse. We will miss you, and Ms. Carson. I really enjoyed working with all three of you and wish you the best. I also want to thank the two folks who are here that came out of retirement. I can't imagine what that means, but this has definitely been an all hands on deck moment in history, and thanks for proving that to your schools. And welcome to Principal Holdren, and welcome to Dr. Monroe, who I haven't yet met in person, but look forward to that. And I think that's it on the welcomes, but I just wanted to talk about one issue, and that is in the summertime, our children are still being fed at school, and it's incredibly important and one of the best, I think, in my mind, services that public schools do provide, which is feeding our kids, and that doesn't stop in the summer. And in fact, Santa Barbara Unified has 16 places where any child, no questions asked, no registration, they can be a Santa Barbara Unified student or not can get fed Monday through Friday, and those meals are happening actually 40 throughout the entire county, but 16 that Santa Barbara Unified is responsible for. And we will be at Franklin with some music on Thursday if anyone wants to join us, but they're happening every day throughout the summer. It's incredibly important because summer is a time when kids need to thrive and have the nutrition and the food and the community support that they need and that they rely on throughout the year. So I'm proud to support this incredible work of free summer meals. Thank you, President Munoz.
Ms. Alvarez?
Thank you. Well, first of all, welcome everyone. Welcome to our meeting today. We'll eventually get to all the items, so please hold on. And welcome to Dr. Monroe, Dr. Sheffield. We're very happy to have you join us as part of the Santa Barbara Unified Professionals, so thank you for being here. Thank you to all the retirees for helping us as well. And thank you to Mr. Rouse, Mr. Ortega, and Ms. Carson for your service. We will definitely miss you and wish you the best. And Mr. Holdren, I wish you the best. I'm a Royal myself, so I really look forward to seeing all the good work that you will do at San Marcos, so thank you. And I just feeling very, very positive today, very happy. I've had the opportunity to see some of the summer of learning that's taking place and seeing students learn. They're not only learning math, they're not only learning reading, but I have to share this picture with you. This is recently the garden at La Colina was revived, and students are using it. They're using it for learning. They're using it to do English, to do math, to interact, and it's just wonderful to see this. So a big thank you to all of our teachers that are doing summer school, all of our administrators that are working hard, and support staff, and of course the students who are attending to school every day. And a huge, huge thank you to Ms. Hernandez. She did a lot of work to make sure that we had transportation for students who need transportation. So thank you, and that's my board update. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ford.
Thank you so much. Well, I wanted to just mention a couple of things. At the last board meeting, we all received a complimentary copy of TechWise Santa Barbara's book club selection #1 called Screen Schooled. And I've just begun to read it. I can't say that I'm an expert on it yet, but I did review 2 really important chapters. One on escaping the cyber world of anxiety and challenging us to revitalize young people's social interaction. And one thing I really love about the book already is that it's written by 2 teachers, and their intent is not, from the very start, they state that their intent is not to blame parents and educators, but to challenge all of us to be open and understand what is happening to our children. So as the district, all of us prepare for the 2023-23 school year, we are working, as Mr. Venn said, to address the issue of monitoring and limiting access to certain applications and the internet and cell phones, as well as monitoring and limiting screen time. And I would just plead and remind our partners, and our partners are the parents of our students, to help us this summer with this endeavor. And do the same. Monitor and limit internet usage and cell phones and actual time on the internet. I hope that we all, everyone in this room and out there in our district, kids included, find time instead of internet time, time for downtime, for wondering time, for outside time, and even just a little boredom this summer. Also, as my unofficial title of the keeper of the correspondence, I did want to just report to the board on the correspondence that we received since the last board meeting on June 14th. So here's the report from June 15th to the 28th, and just as a reminder to everyone, these are considered technically as public comments. We received 4 emails regarding the Santa Barbara High School window project. We received 6 emails regarding the field use at Santa Barbara Junior High School, 3 emails regarding personnel issues, and 1 each on COVID-19, on literacy, on student use of technology, and 1 on anti-Americanism. But finally, on June 16th, I wanted to report that the board received an official letter from the Executive Board of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association expressing strong support for universal access, stating, and I quote from their letter, "We believe universal access is a good and much-needed step toward equity in our schools. However, the district must set teachers up for success so that we, in turn, can set our students up for success." Amen. That's my report.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Mr. Kelly?
Yes. First, I'd like to thank all of you for all of your kind comments. It meant the world to me to be a part of this board, and for all of you board members and district to open your arms to me and truly treat me like one of your colleagues was great in terms of transitioning into this and just making me feel comfortable being the only student a part of this. I would say that the lessons that I've learned from all of you have been things that I will take with me for the rest of my life. And I look forward to the future with Kavya and the next student board members to follow. I am so grateful that the district is continuing to include student voice and especially allowing for this position to even exist. So thank you all for all of your support, and I can't wait to see you in the future, because this is not goodbye. I hope to continue to help this district. So thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to public comments on non-agenda items. And tonight, we're going to have 2 minutes for each speaker, and Ms. Capps will help call the speakers up when it's their turn.
Great, and just to explain the process, because I see some new faces, I'll call up 3 in a row so you can kind of get ready and make your way down so we can move as quickly as possible. And also, the board can't respond to you. It's a state law, so if we're just nodding in agreement or just smiling at you, that's all, as much as we can do. I don't want there to be any hurt feelings or lack of, or feeling that there is a lack of interest in what is being said. So first will be Michael Lopez, followed by Jerry Fawcett, followed by Brian Corlett.
Michael Lopez.
Yeah, come on to the microphone and please put the microphone on and state your name.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
My name is Michael Lopez. I am the president and I operate the Santa Barbara Sharks youth football program. The only reason I'm here today was just to speak about our arrangements with the junior highs as far as some of the stuff that we've been dealing with football. How to put it, and again, I just want to make clear, I've had the pleasure of coaching in FNL. My son's played in FNL. Like I said, this is never an indictment of either. They just wanted me to, I guess, reference what my agreements have been with the Unified School District over the last couple of years. So 10 years ago, we started as a program there. The junior high has always been my home. We had an MOU for the last 8 years and then have done field use permits ever since COVID. Certain things are just asked of us, I think, because we are a tackle program. That's I guess just, school district rules as far as like when we've had larger events, we have to bring in like porta potties, X amount of trash cans and stuff like that per field, per time. And a lot of times we're asked to, move in certain days. Like if there's ultimate frisbee, they ask us, hey, do you mind if they pop over there? Never a problem. If they're lining fields, never a problem. Like everybody's usually pretty cool about doing it. I've been blessed to have San Marcos be my home for football games, Santa Barbara High School be my home for football games, and just to be a part of the school district has been probably the only way my program has been able to survive. So first, like I said, again, thank you for all of the support that you've given us. I think football is important regardless of whatever it's played, whether it's flag or tackle. Like it's a necessity within the community.
30 seconds.
We just got to go ahead and, like I said, I know my rules, what I've got to do. So like I said, and those are the things that have been asked for me to bring up today was just the importance of working with each other. We're working with the school that has been amazing to us. Ms. Curry was amazing with helping us set up everything this year, even during the COVID time where we almost didn't have a season, where one year we didn't, and then we were able to come back and do it. And again, I just wish everybody the best. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. But like I said, that was what I was asked to come forward and say.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. And next we have Jerry Fawcett, followed by Brian Corlett, followed by Jalen Latendre.
Hello, my name is Jerry Fawcett, board members, Mr. Vance, members of the cabinet. Thank you. I'm president of the Marjorie Luke Theater Board of Directors, and I wanted to speak this evening to make sure that our side of the story was told. The Luke Theater is used more than 50% of the time by the school and other youth organizations. We are a youth-friendly organization, and we've donated more than $350,000 to youth performing groups in our near 20-year history at Santa Barbara Junior. We have worked to be respectful of the property and the individuals at Santa Barbara Junior High, follow the rules and the regulations, and be good caretakers of the area in which we operate. Regarding the parking lot, at one point we had to hire a valet service to help our patrons park their cars in order to attend an event at the theater, which had been scheduled for months. We were delighted when the Armory parking lot was to be used for the parking for FNL. We thought this was the answer. However, it didn't work out. Not all of the clients of FNL used the Armory lot and chose to use the junior high parking lot instead. We had to again hire a valet service in order to guarantee our patrons could park for an event. When the school's play, Shrek, was in the theater, parents of the students in the play were met with angry clients from FNL trying to park even when we had a valet service. We soon discovered that the lot of the Armory was just not big enough, and in fact, adding 600 more
30
people
seconds.
to Santa Barbara Junior High School and their accompanying cars is just too much. There were 17 Fridays from August to November. The Luke had events on 11 of those 17, and most of those had events the following evening, Saturday. It should be known that FNL personnel came on the Santa Barbara Junior High campus more than once during school hours to set up for their games and had to be asked to leave. After games and field use, many times gates were left unlocked and unsecured.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I know this was a bit shorter than as sometimes, so please email us. Anybody is entitled, and as Ms. Ford has indicated, we certainly read the emails. Okay, next we have Brian Corlett for 2 minutes.
Before you start the clock, I just have a copy of an email letter I had sent you. I don't know if you received it, but there's a hard copy.
Thank you.
I sent one to Dr. Ronaldo and president of, new president, I should say, of Santa Barbara Junior High. Started the clock. All right, so I'm Brian Corlett. I'm a native of Santa Barbara, grew up here, went to Santa Barbara Junior High School. You've heard why we're here tonight. There's been some issue with sharing the facilities, and I wanted to highlight the benefits that we've been so blessed with Santa Barbara Friday Night Lights. So Ted and Evan brought to our community a little over 6 years ago Friday Night Lights football. And when I grew up, they only had tackle football. And that's what I played. And, as science has showed that there's just a lot of injuries that can be avoided, especially at a young age. And that's what, Ted and his organization have brought forth is a way to play this fun sport in a safe manner, which, it has brought so much joy to so many of the kids and parents that I've coached. I was going to reference an article written in 2020 by the President's Council on Sport and Fitness and Nutrition. I just highlight that. It shows the many benefits physical activity serves from mental to physical well-being for youth. With regards to the parking lot, I know that I personally haven't seen an issue with regards to cleanliness, though I know, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, I make sure that the kids I
30
teach
seconds.
Are very respectful. They understand respect, pride, teamwork, and carry that not only in their field of play, but also in the classroom. I've worked with their teachers individually to make sure that they are being respectful in the classrooms and that they wouldn't play if they showed otherwise. And parents and teachers have been very appreciative of this. I mention this only to highlight that the coaches have been very good role models to our kids, and it shouldn't just be a one-way process with this. We should be able to find a resolution equally.
Thank you very much.
Oh, not on time. I just wanted to commend Dawson Kelly. I think that was awesome that you guys had him on board and wanted to commend your work. So.
Thank you. Jalen Latendre, followed by Diana I believe it's Workington, if I'm saying that correctly, and followed by Mark Workington. And please correct me if I said it wrong.
Hello, President Munoz and Board. My name is Jalen Latondra, and I'm a mom of 2 students in Santa Barbara Unified right now. And I'm also a flag football coach, and I have the unique opportunity to coach all girls teams within Friday Night Lights. I have 3 teams ranging from, some of my players, from 3rd grade to 8th grade, and I have a unique perspective because what Friday Night Lights brings to the girls in this community is immeasurable. My girls are learning a new sport, which is amazing in itself, but they're learning and building skills as they're learning a new sport. They are learning as a team, learning a new sport, some amazing team building skills where they are building each other up and encouraging each other and supporting each other. They're learning leadership skills and taking ownership of their teams and their confidence. This has been a boost in these girls' confidence levels. I mean, they ooze confidence. It's amazing to see as they walk out on those fields on Friday nights. But I think these are all qualities that I think all of you females on the board could say, yes, this is what we want to see in our daughters and our sisters and our nieces and our neighbors. These innate qualities that these girls, they're bold, they're powerful, they're fierce, and they've been given this opportunity from Friday Night Lights to show this, to build this. And I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken to say to my girls, we don't have a place to play on Friday nights. The hard work you have done, we don't have a place to play now. I'm heartbroken to tell the girls, the future girls, the girls that see us out there that want to play next season, I'm heartbroken because they don't have a place to play. And I know my story is like hundreds of other stories you've heard this week, but what I ask of the board to do is take all of these stories and collectively see what a positive, tremendous impact Friday Night Lights is having on the students in your community. Students that you represent, families that you represent, this has been such a positive experience. We talk about connecting relationships. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Diana?
Hi, my name's Diana Workington, and I'm here as a mother of 2 FNL players and a coach's wife. This current conflict has made me cry many times last week. For the last 2 years, when youth sports were canceled, we would drive by our old fields and reminisce on the amazing Friday Night Lights that we would have as a family. My parents from San Diego would drive up almost every Friday to come watch and be a part of our community life here. This sport gives students in our community of Santa Barbara a place to gather and play a beloved, safe game. Our kids have learned life-changing skills in character development. For example, integrity, perseverance, grit, compassion, pride in self, and leadership skills. When FNL was back on the schedule after debilitating COVID lockdowns, it was like our whole city filled up with life. Kids could play with others finally, without masks. And for one night a week, a magical Friday night, they could forget their fears, their lack of in-person learning, put a smile on and a game face. Please, let's not go backwards. Mental health is the pandemic right now, as I'm sure this young man believes. And I've tried to get into a psychologist's office, and the woman is 80 years old. She's been practicing for 40 years. She said, I can't take any more kids. It's too much. Right now, we need to care about mental health, and that's not necessarily being in an indoor theater. It's playing outside in the fresh air, getting vitamin D, and having a good time. You represent and advocate for students and families.
30 seconds.
It's disheartening and frankly depressing to think that we can't rally for kids. And I love the theater too. We've got to rally for them. Please go to bed tonight feeling like you can focus on other issues less, and instead the students and their mental health. Fight for the kids, for their happiness, and for their passions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Mark Workington, followed by Tony Mancuso. I can't read the writing. Thank you.
I am a San Marcos graduate, and I have 3 kids in the Santa Barbara School District. I'd like to take my time to speak on the matter of effort. Both the Luke and FNL can coexist at the same facility if the adults in this room put forth the effort to communicate and plan accordingly. Both entities can exist. From Friday Night Lights' perspective, on June 6th, without any warning, Principal Curry informed FNL that our program was not a good fit for Santa Barbara Junior High School, and that our permit would not be renewed. There was no communication that could be considered negotiable or open to mediation. There was no suggestion on how Friday Night Lights might alter programming or improve logistics. There was no effort. It was just a very abrupt divorce. Ted and Nevin have put forth an incredible effort. Ted has made numerous offers with the hope of negotiating some sort of arrangement so that the Luke patrons, who are also very important, are not affected by Friday Night Lights games. Unfortunately, from our perspective, it has been clear that Dr. Maldonado and the former principal at Santa Barbara Junior High are not interested in negotiating any form of an arrangement. It appears to me that in order for Friday Night Lights to continue in the fall, it will require effort from our school board to intervene and encourage Dr. Maldonado to participate in good faith negotiations.
30 seconds.
FNL wants to negotiate. FNL absolutely wants to be respectful of Luke and their patrons. FNL is willing to do advanced schedule planning and to communicate proactively with the Luke and try to accommodate each so that both programs can use the facilities cooperatively. But one-sided effort doesn't make a marriage work. We need effort from Dr. Maldonado and the school. We need effort from this school board. The presumption is that we're all here to help the kids.
Thank you.
Are we going to put the effort to make that happen? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tony, help me out with your last name, please.
Mancuso.
Okay, Mancuso.
Mancuso.
I just couldn't read your
Sure.
writing, but thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for your time and your service. I will make this quick. I've been on a board. I've been at the Page Youth Center for 7 years, so I've been on the board. I know what it's like to be in your shoes on some of these issues, so I appreciate all that you're doing. What I would like to say is that I know how many challenges you faced over the past 2 years, and FNL truly was a bright spot over the past 2 years. I know all these families looked forward to Friday nights. It was an amazing experience. It's a great program. Having seen many programs in this town, this is an outstanding program. I would love to see it continue on at the fields. I sincerely hope that this can be worked out. It's a tremendous asset to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the final three speakers are Ted Pallett. Pallett? Yes? Pallett, okay, and Moni DeWitt and Joe Zender. Absolutely. 2 minutes, Mr. Zender.
My name is Joe Zender, and I'm a 3rd and 4th grade volunteer coach. I'm a founding partner at Pivot Global, an international IT service company headquartered here in Santa Barbara. My son Ollie, sitting right next to me here. You've heard a couple of examples earlier on of what FNL means to so many families here in town. If you haven't been to one of these nights, they're awesome. I've coached basketball, baseball, and soccer. I've coached my son's FNL team the last 2 seasons. I'm a huge believer that youth sports is one of the greatest tools and opportunities to strengthen a community. Winning and losing teaches our kids how to overcome adversity. It teaches the importance of discipline and hard work, and it builds self-confidence both on and off the field. The FNL community is different than most other leagues here in town. There's a strong connection between the volunteer coaches, their parents, and even their teachers that represent the school in the district. As crazy as it sounds, there's many of us coaches who get weekly updates from their teachers about homework and classroom behavior that impacts whether or not they get to start Friday or not. I've coached every sport here in Santa Barbara, and I can promise you this strategy only has weight in FNL games on Friday night. Playing together at the Santa Barbara Junior High fields was a real game changer. It's not just the single game that we coach or play on Friday nights, but the whole experience, where we get to watch our friends and other teams, league rivals, and even random games that are just fun to watch. Playing under the lights on Friday night with picnic dinners, this is what community looks like. This engagement builds community between families from different schools.
30 seconds.
And a connection here in Santa Barbara unique to other sports. This connection can be a valuable resource to Santa Barbara Junior High. Every trade and every industry is represented in the list of volunteers and families of the 680 kids that played last spring. These families are passionate about FNL, and you have an army of volunteers ready tonight to help solve some of the challenges you bumped into last year. Does the school need help with a fence repair, better lighting, signs, general grass maintenance? Need a new wall? Maybe you need a wall painted? Our FNL community can do this for you. Give us the chance to show you. We love our kids, and we love this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ted Pallett.
Thank you, board members, for having us. Not on the agenda. I appreciate it. Heartfelt thanks to our friends and family and these kids here supporting us. It was challenging to hear from the Luke. I wish everyone understood that we had asked for months for a schedule from this Santa Barbara Junior High School about when their programs were. We were notified March 9th about your show on March 11th. and March
Please address the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, of
yeah,
course.
It's okay. Thank you so much.
We want to work with people. Our whole goal was to tell us when we can and cannot be on campus. And like I said, March 9th to say not to be on campus on March 11th. And at that time, we were just told to park on the streets and tell our families to carpool as best as possible. Listen, we want to work with the school. We've had no contact. We've been trying to make contact with the superintendent to sit down 3.5 weeks ago to discuss what are the challenges and let's find solutions. We've got these kids who want to play. We will do whatever it takes to make it work. There's not a lot of field space in Santa Barbara. This is all about the kids. We just want to find a solution. We're having limited response with the schools and the school district on finding solutions for this reason that you've heard from our friends and families out here. We want the kids to play. Santa Barbara Unified says, every child, every chance, every day. I mean, we're doing this for the kids, period. And we want to find the opportunity to make this work with the Luke, with Santa Barbara Junior High School.
30 seconds.
And with Santa Barbara Friday Night Lights. We would truly appreciate some effort and some support on moving forward and finding a way to make this happen. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker will be Moni DeWitt.
Yeah, hello, board. I, too, just want to speak out for the Friday night group here because I think exercise and being outside and forming friendships is really vital to these kids. I know a lot of youth, and they've had a tough time. They've been inside, and you know how strongly you all feel about too much screen time. Now, this is a way to really demonstrate it. And I also hear nothing but heart and soul from everybody who came up. They're willing to just bend over backwards and make it work. And I'm kind of shocked to hear that nobody tried to negotiate and come with up a solution. Further, 700 kids. I think this is a perfect way to replicate what you did with SB Tech. And these kids will see that, look, adults can negotiate. We can work things out. We can all sacrifice and make it come together for these children because mental health is a big issue. I frankly have realized we've lost people, youth that I've met to suicide. Over the summer, the suicide rates are up. So, if you really, really care and reflect on this, we need to make it easy for kids to have fun and to be outside. They really haven't had that opportunity at all. And this is how they make their friends in a safe airspace. So please, demonstrate cooperation. Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of our speakers, and President Munoz, that concludes public comment.
Okay, we will now move on to the consent agenda. To approve the items that are considered routine and are not likely to require any discussion. Dr. Maldonado and her staff have recommended that the board approves all the consent agenda items. The board has also had an opportunity to consider and ask questions about these items before tonight. First, are there any public comments on the consent agenda items? Okay.
Oh, you gave me one? Oh, yes. My apologies. We do have public comment from Ms. DeWitt, if you'd like to come back, on item E13 and later on in the agenda as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm here to speak about the A through G requirements, and I have a big concern for our EMLs, our emerging multilingual students, as well as those students with learning differences. And by the way, I do think it would be nice if we refer to them as differences instead of disabilities, because that really is a pejorative term. I understand why technically we might do that, but either way, at 6%, passing the A through G is one piece of information I think the district and the board is overlooking, is that the interventions for the group of learning differences don't really happen till high school, some of the remediation. And I think if we put part of our focus in early elementary, both changing our approach to literacy to the more structured, explicit approach to science of reading, and also doing universal testing so that we would be proactive on finding students who are behind. This is particularly good for students with learning differences, but also our EMLs, so that we would be working towards closing the achievement gap, opportunity gap, whatever gap you want to call it, but we would be well on our way before third grade. And I want you to know experts are doing this. If you look to Mayor Eric Adams in New York, he's doing tremendous, great work with dyslexics. And as we know, dyslexics are really brilliant. Our governor's a dyslexic. Eric Adams himself is a dyslexic. He wants to do a separate school for them, so you could consider something like we used to have. Anyway, I think it's very important we be more proactive in our approach, and I think 6% is way too low.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Before I call for a motion, board members and, I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Before I call for a motion, board members or Mr. Vance, are there any items on the consent agenda that require more information, comments, or discussion?
Oh, no.
Okay, do I have a motion? Ms. Ford?
Thanks. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in items E2 to E15.
And I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Now we'll go to the action agenda. Adoption, number 1, adoption of the Santa Barbara Unified fiscal year budget for 22-23.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, and Cabinet. Tonight, I will be sharing the 22-23 adopted budget. Next slide. What is the adopted budget? This is our most conservative budget report of the year. It is done this way because we are still waiting for the state to finalize the budget themselves. They actually came to an agreement yesterday on the actual state budget. This budget includes wish lists of all the salary and benefits that may not get filled this year or may not be filled the entire year, but it's what we hope to fill. The board must certify the adopted budget by July 1st, whether or not the district will meet its financial requirements. Santa Barbara Unified reports a positive certification, and we will meet our financial obligations for the current year and the subsequent 2 years. Next slide. This chart shows the revenue that we are estimating to receive for 21-22 compared to the revenue we are projecting to receive for the 22-23 adopted budget. We included a 3.5% increase in property tax revenue, which is in the largest blue section. Federal funding in red is coming in lower due to some of the earlier ESSER and GEAR relief funds that are ending in 21-22. The yellow section includes $17 million for the state discretionary block grants that the state approved yesterday. Other local revenue increased due to donations and administrative redevelopment fees. Special education funding also increased with the COLA that is set at 6.56%. You can find additional details on page 5 of the narrative. Next slide. This slide shows our estimated expenditures projected for the current school year 21-22 compared to our projected expenditures for the 22-23 school year. Salary and benefits, which are about 80% of total expenditures, increased with the negotiated 2.5% salary increase.
We also have step and column movements, increases to CalSTRS, CalPERS, health insurance, and the workers' compensation rate. We are still in learning recovery, which means we will continue next year to have smaller class size ratios. For TK through 3, that ratio will be 20 students to 1 teacher. For grades 4 to 6, it'll be 25 to 1. And for secondary, it'll be 30 to 1. Books, supplies, and services and other operating expenditures increased due to the spending of the $17 million for the discretionary block grants. And again, there are additional details that can be found on page 6 and 7 of the narrative. Next slide. All right, this chart gives an overview of our estimated cash flow for 22-23. The pink line represents when the district receives cash. As you can see, we receive the majority of our cash through property taxes in December and April. The cash disbursements, which is the green line, are the opposite of our cash receipts, with steady payments to employees and vendors being issued throughout the school year. Both lines jump up in June when we are wrapping up the end of the school year. All this leads to the district's actual cash balances, which are the blue columns. The chart shows our lowest cash balances in October and November. This is right before we receive the first round of property tax payments in December. With the increase that we've built up in reserves and the one-time funds that we have been receiving over the last couple of years, the district is able to support itself in between the property tax payments and does not have to borrow any money in the 22-23 school year. Next slide. In the budget narrative, you will see the multi-year projections on pages 14 through 16 that show the revenue and expenditures from fiscal year 18-19 to fiscal year 22-24. What I want to focus on here is the deficit spending and reserves. The adopted budget is the most conservative budget. It is our worst case scenario. For example, at this time last year, we were budgeting that in 21-22 we would have a $10.9 million deficit, and currently we are only showing a $3.1 million deficit. You can see with the little thought bubbles that the deficits are better than what was projected this time last year. And they should be getting better as 22-23 progresses. Why do we budget expenditures high and the revenues low at the start of the year? It is fiscally responsible for us to budget all that we know to date, which includes assuming that we will be able to be fully staffed and that our expenditures will be similar to the previous school year. Since we don't even know what our property tax revenues will be, we budget at a conservative value based on history. We also have reserves. Reserves tend to increase at first interim and again at second interim because we have more accurate data by then to estimate the year. Note that the state requires us to keep a 3% reserve. If you look at 2021, for example, our reserves started the year at adopted budget at an estimate of $28.5 million, and we ended up at the end of the year at $36.8 million. Our reserve percents are better than last year's estimate. Currently in 22-23, we are estimating 10.44%, and this time last year we predicted 5.76. We'll again look at this at first interim and see how our reserves are shaping up when we actually have the end of the prior fiscal year closed and we will have received our property tax estimates for the 22-23 school year. Next slide. This slide was originally intended to be skipped but accidentally got included. As I mentioned on the previous slide, the multi-year projections can be found on pages 14 through 16. If anyone wants to see more information, I've already gone over a lot of that information in the previous slide. So we'll go to the next slide. This will be our last slide. And this includes the one-time federal and state relief funds, plus some of the one-time state grants that the district is receiving. By the end of the year, we should have fully spent the GEAR, ESSER 1, learning loss mitigation, and in-person instruction funds. We will still have ESSER 2, ESSER 3, educator effectiveness, and the A through G success grant. For first interim, we will update this chart to include the new state grants that the governor and legislature agreed upon yesterday. And with that, we'll go to the last slide for public comment and questions from the board.
Okay, do we have public comment?
Any public comment?
No.
No public comment on this, President Munoz.
Okay. Board, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? Ms. Alvarez?
Thank you, Ms. Peterson, for your work and for that presentation. I do have, number one, I do have a request that we develop a budget calendar and that it's posted on our website. So this way the public knows when this is going to be presented, when first interim, when that's coming up. And I'm happy to provide you a sample, but I'm sure you have them. So I like to request that, and I'd like for that to be included with our budget reports in the future.
Okay.
So thank you for that. Then if you would please go back to the multi-year projections, to that slide.
The one with the reserves?
Yes, please. If, I don't know who's in charge of the slides. Oh, okay. So tell me more why we went from 5% projection of property tax increase to 4.5%. Why did we decrease 0.5?
So that range right there is based on secured property taxes. So that's just one of the many buckets of property taxes that we receive. And we're just being conservative on our estimate and, hopes that it'll at least come in at 4.5, if not 5%.
So that's only the secure, the 4.5%.
Yes, and we also didn't include an estimate for prior year property taxes since those fluctuate from year to year. So again, like I said previously, this is our most conservative budget. And then once we get the actual estimates from the county ed office, then we will update it.
And the deficit, still a deficit. I mean, whether it was 10 million or 3 million deficit, explain to us how do we cover that deficit? Where did this money come from to cover that deficit?
So these reserves that you are looking at, they include both unrestricted and restricted funds. And over the last couple of years, we have received a lot of one-time restricted funds that can be spent over multiple years. So with those state funds, we have to record the revenue in a prior fiscal year, but then we don't spend the expenditures until the out years, until we have 2-3 years to spend the money, but we've already showed it as coming in. So because we don't have the revenue to offset the expenditures in the current year, that is creating the deficit.
On page 14 of the report, it shows the unrestricted multi-year projections, and it's still showing a deficit. For 23-24, there's a big drop in revenue and also a drop in expenditures. Is that because of those one-time monies, or why is that such a big drop?
And you're talking just on the unrestricted
I'm
side?
talking about, unrestricted MYPs.
Okay, so you want to know why the unrestricted expenditures?
What I'm asking is, we're projecting, for 22-23, the budget is projecting $178,432,168 in revenue. And for 23-24, the projection is $167,816.
Okay, so for the current year, 22-23, we included all 17 million of the one-time discretionary block grants. We're not including any of that money going forward. We're waiting for the trailer bill language to be issued by the state. So we know, one, how long we have to spend the funds. Maybe we have to spend them all in the current year. That's the way we budgeted it as we wait for more information from the state.
So the drop in revenue is because of that one-time money, not necessarily that the property taxes are dropping or anything awful is happening. It's the one-time money.
It's the one-time money. We are projecting in the out years property taxes increasing at that same level of the 4.5%.
One of the things that really worries me, and I think about at night when I go to sleep, before I go to sleep, keeps me awake, it's the deficit. And the fact that the reserves are dropping, are decreasing. So I know we're going to have a budget study session coming up, hopefully in the next couple of months. So I'm very much interested in finding out, not tonight, but in finding out, working together with the staff and see how we can target that. I know that we have a good reserve, 10%, 9%, and then 8%. But in my opinion, that needs to be higher. I don't think that's enough. Then I do have another question for you, if you would please help me. On page 16, the step and column increases. Can you explain that a little bit? Because that's a huge impact to our budget.
Yes, so the school district has what we refer to as salary schedules. Those are developed and negotiated with the various unions. So every year, employees automatically step, so they automatically get an increase in their salaries from year to year. We do have max steps. For teachers, it's 19. For classified, I believe it's 25, and for management, it's 8 years. So that is part of it. And then also with the teacher's salary schedule, if they get additional credits, they can move from one column to another column, and so that's where the column changes come from.
So if I read this correctly, we're projecting a 6.5 million in increase in property tax for 23-24, and also we're projecting about 3.5 million increase in step and column and the COLA.
Correct.
So there's the increase. That's where it goes, to take care of our people, to take care of our employees, and take care of our legal agreements. Am I reading this correctly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, thank you for doing that summary on the ESSER monies. That's really helpful. I know that we're funding several temporary positions with those monies. In future reports, would you or Ms. Hernandez bring your ideas of what's going to happen to those positions once that money runs out?
Yes.
That would be really helpful to know.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Great job. Really appreciate it.
Ms. Ford?
Thanks. First of all, thanks for a great report. The narrative was really clear, and I think this district can be proud of how it's managing the budget, and I appreciate your stepping in at the last minute with Ms. Hernandez being sick. Mr. Vance, I'd like to just make a request for you and Dr. Maldonado, and that is perhaps you would consider, knowing that the budget is likely to be finalized this week. I think they're in the final throes of it. If possible, since we don't have another board meeting till July 19th, if you would consider working with staff to get a report out to us about the effects of the eventually approved budget.
So you're requesting specifically, once they approve it, what are the effects of this new funds, or what are we thinking about using, or the various ways we're going to approach incorporating these funds?
Sure, to the board, just to let us know where we are with the budget, state budget. It'll give us an idea where we're going with ours. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I certainly appreciate the way that you presented it and how understandable it is and such. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we will go ahead and call for board members. Do I have a motion to accept the adopted budget?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we will now go to F2, approval of the local control accountability plan. for 2022, 2023.
Good evening, President Munoz, student board members, Mr. Venz. I bring to you this evening the culmination of a very arduous process by many, many people. After a rigorous process including multiple educational partner meetings, gathering input from multiple different stakeholders, analyzing data, reflecting on our goals and actions, which ultimately led to a public hearing on June the 14th, along with updates along the way. I'm submitting the final draft of the LCAP for your approval. Once approved, it will immediately be submitted to the Santa Barbara County Office of Education, translated, and it will be live on our website.
Okay, do we have any public comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, board.
I'm sorry, yes, F2 we do. I apologize. When they're all on one page, I forget. Sorry about that. Ms. DeWitt.
Yes, I just did want to make a comment as being, I was on the advisory LCAP last year and this year, and I must say it was not, felt like you did want to listen to us, but I also am concerned because so many times, even for our summer learning program, we only do that by invitation only. And I think we have a much greater need in our community for students to have that summer learning experience, as well as some students will need an intensive intervention for literacy. In fact, I met with Casey Kilgore, and what we would normally do for one student, we could do for 3. Anyway, but when I look at the LCAP, what concerns me is that some of the things on it are very general, and they should be actually coming out of the general fund. For example, there's a mental health expenditure. I believe it's $1 million something, $1,030,000. Anyway, I think all our students need that, and so I think it's really unfair to pull it out of the bucket of our most vulnerable students when it should really be coming out of the big bucket. Also, it's not very specific. I think we did mention this to Mr. Vance in the beginning, but like here's one of the goals, and I'm just thinking if we actually knew where the checks went, it would be helpful. Create and cultivate culturally sustaining school committee. Now, you know, that sounds nice. It sounds like a way to make people more comfortable, but LCAP money is designed that you actually have to prove that you're using it in the most effective means for the people who generated it. Now, perhaps some of these, and that's 180,000. See, I think we need more kids going to the summer of learning. It shouldn't be by invitation only. It should be by need. And we need to amp up the tutors. And I know Heidi did mention we now have some Orton Gillingham, but it's still very, very small, like in the pilot mode. So I guess my request to you, I'm sure you're going to pass all this, but
it's time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, board members, any questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve the item.
Okay.
Thank you for all your work, and thank you for answering my questions, Mr. Vance. Really appreciate it. I second the motion.
Okay, board members, if you're, please raise your hand and say aye if you're in agreement.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Mrs. Harvey. Ms. Harvey. Okay, and then now we'll go to number 3, approval of guidelines for extra duty pay for management. Dr. Becchio?
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Munoz, board members, Mr. Venz. I'm bringing this item to you tonight, and while it was shared with you previously, I believe it was a memo maybe more than a year ago, We are seeking formal approval by the board, and it's important that the board understands that anyone being paid by the district needs to be approved by the board. And so this language that was shared with you previously and that was shared in this actual board item, this will actually be the basis for how we would pay administrators who are doing extra duty work as described in the actual policy that I wrote out. So the first important step is to get that base level approved by the board. Then any administrator that is going to be paid under this policy of extra duty would actually first need to submit that to the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. I would review it and approve it. And then that would need to be on the board HR recommendation list, specifically who's being paid and for what amount, and it would be titled under extra duty pay on that board list. So you would have that opportunity to also review and approve the payment of the particular administrator. Important to note that this policy only covers extra duty work. It does not compensate management personnel for anything that they're expected to do over the course of their regular job. So I can give you an example of a legitimate reason to use this type of framework. If we asked a principal, for example, to prepare and carry out a professional development training for all assistant principals in August before we start school, maybe it's on leadership or it's on connecting with students, that would be something that we could have a request submitted to me stating that it's going to take X amount of hours or it's going to be a one-day training. Then we would apply a daily rate and we would actually pay that administrator for that. However, it would be on a holiday, Saturday, not on a holiday, but on a Saturday or a non-contract day. So we wouldn't be double dipping and paying someone twice. Okay. But again, I would review all those proposals that come forward to make certain that they're appropriate. And I believe with that, I will turn it over to the board for any questions that you might have.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, board members, any questions or concerns? Ms. Alvarez?
Dr. Becchio, how do you determine the hourly rate if they're going to work less than a full day? Is it, I know you mentioned it here, but can you review it real quick?
Yeah, I believe in the policy, I was just looking for it, I think it's an average of the three principal ranges, and I think it was at step 1. Let me just look for it so I get you the right answer.
It's okay, you don't have to look it up. It's here.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I saw it.
So
Yeah.
what we would do if there was an hourly situation, we would take that daily rate, divide it by 8, apply that as the hourly rate. There may be circumstances where we may be asking someone to do a job that has a definite or a definitive spot on our salary schedule. So let's say we were asking a principal to fill in for an assistant superintendent for a given amount of time, then we would instead of using the average of those 3 principal salaries, we would actually do a work out of class at that range of the assistant superintendent.
And you're capping it at basically 5 days? It says 40 hours per year. So let's just pretend that's 5 days. Is that realistic to say they cannot work more than an extra 5 days per year?
Yeah, we would ask that. See, the intent of this is that we're not exorbitantly paying people for extra work. We should have the personnel to do our jobs in place. So these are pretty rare circumstances. So we believe that if you reach that point, it would require some kind of written approval or some kind of oversight by myself or the superintendent or our chief operations officer to say, okay, this is the reason we're going forward with going over that amount.
I want to make sure that there's some kind of cap in the amount of money that we'll be spending every year. So I appreciate if you would send a report to the board, if anybody else wants it, but I'd be interested in knowing, okay, we've spent $7,000 to date or whatever, so that we have some kind of a cap on how much money is being spent, and that it's, and of course, the impact to our budget.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ford?
Thanks. I am a huge fan of mentoring, and I'm wondering if mentoring or being a buddy to a new or struggling administrator would fall under this kind of an assignment?
That would. That could. We do have in place mentors already that are administrators that are mentoring through the CASC program, so that's being done through a different method of a stipend. But if we did see a need for someone to mentor, this would be the perfect way to have that person do that extra duty.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, do I have a motion to approve this item? Ms. Ford?
I'd like to approve I'd like to make a motion to approve the guidelines for extra duty pay for management.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. We will now go to, the approval of the employment agreement for Dr. Sheffield.
All right, great, thank you. And at the June 14th board meeting in closed session, you approved the appointment of Dr. Lynn Sheffield, who you met tonight, to serve as the next assistant superintendent of secondary schools. And tonight I bring forward to the board for approval the terms of the contract for that appointment. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any public comment on this item? No. Board members? Any questions? No? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'm very excited to have Dr. Sheffield join us. I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract agreement.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we will, you're on tonight.
Two more.
Okay. Number 5, the approval memorandum between CSEA and SBTA. Dr. Vecchio?
Yes, thank you. It is really with great pleasure that I bring this item before the board tonight for your consideration. During the 21-22 school year, we were all committed to reopening schools to full in-person learning. We did this, but as we are all aware, COVID remained with us at just about every turn. It was a tough year to say the least, but our employees committed to doing their part to make sure schools stayed open, to make sure students and staff and families were safe. This called for employees in all positions to step up and do what was asked. It often meant they had to do things that were not in their job descriptions, that they had never done before. They had to do extra tasks, work different hours, or maybe even longer hours, or put themselves at risk, or even put their own families at risk. Also, we could keep schools open for kids. Tonight with this item, we are proposing an important token of appreciation for our employees, without whom we would not have been able to keep schools open and keep people safe. I've always said that our greatest asset as an organization is our people, and those people stepped up in so many ways this past year, and for that, we would like to ask the board for your consideration of this proposal to grant every Santa Barbara Unified employee a $750 stipend as a way of recognizing that they went above and beyond to serve our community in a time of great need. There are, of course, some parameters outlined in this proposal. Those details will guide us on who is eligible for the stipend and at what amount. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Okay, I'm assuming there's no public comment on this item. Okay, board members? Ms. Ford?
Oh, thank you. I would like to confirm that this agreement also includes another group of people who were absolutely essential to our success in the past year, and that would be substitute teachers.
Yes, we would actually like to, you'll notice this is an agreement between CSEA, who represents our classified employees, and SBTA. We would also like to propose an inclusion of our substitute teachers. I did do an analysis on that, and we looked at, what we did is we looked at anyone that served 20 days. And the reason I chose 20 days was because in the actual MOU that we're proposing here, we asked that one of the parameters that they had worked at least a month. And so when I looked at the substitute pool, some people take one job, some people take 5 jobs a year, 20 jobs a year. We looked at everyone with 20 or more, and we applied that standard. Then we also applied the standard of whether you served over a course of 6 months or more, which would be the 750, or 5 months or less, which would be the 500. And when I did those calculations, it is about a $65,000 expenditure to include our substitute teachers. Remember that 20 of these individuals served every day at our schools, at one of our schools every day. We also included long-term subs who took over classrooms, and then the daily on-call subs if they served over 20 days. So that's the standard we applied, and that would be the cost of those substitutes. I would love for any motion that you entertain. If it could include that, then we would move forward and be able to pay out substitutes as well.
I do like the idea of including the subs. I don't know, I personally don't think it's a good idea to include the motion with this because it wasn't published as such, so the public didn't have an opportunity to give input if they chose to do that. The agenda item listed CSEA and SBTA members. Are the subs SBTA members? I don't know that. If they are, then that's not a problem.
They are not. It's actually a really good point that you bring up. However, I do, as I'm thinking about it off the top of my head, we do mention that you must be an employee of the district, and substitutes are employees of the district. So that could be a way to include them as well. But you're right, it is not in the actual MOU. In order to, again, I will be bringing back a CSEA MOU as well, because CSEA will not approve, they need to approve an MOU that just has classified employees in it. So I will be bringing that back. I'm happy to bring back another statement around substitutes if that's the board's interest.
I don't know if this is has agreement, but I personally would prefer that you bring that as a separate item. It also keeps it cleaner for CalSTRS as well, as a separate action item. It could maybe even be in the consent agenda if, since we already talked about it. I personally would prefer to stick to what's on the agenda as far as the motion and the vote for what's on the agenda. That's my
I think that's smart and it's safe to do it that way. Yeah.
Ms. Ford?
Well, I'm not sure that I agree, Dr. Becchio, and the reason is that when we discussed this as a board, we did talk about it being for all employees, despite whether they were part of the union or not, because we do have certificated employees who are not part of the union. Do you remember that part of the discussion?
Yeah, I'm just looking over the actual agreement that I attached. Just a quick analysis. I actually think the safest thing to do is for me to bring back language for the board to approve separate, only because what I'm looking at now are some of the question tree that I listed there, and it is part of the item, that question tree, and it asks if you are an employee on January 3rd. So substitutes are, but then they are not part of the next list of groups, And so they would go on to answer that question, and it would be not eligible for stipend. So that's the only area of concern I have there, is that they don't get through that question tree.
So theoretically, or actually realistically, anyone who isn't part of the union isn't included on this motion either.
There are classified management, certificated management, which are not part of the union, but they're listed out there separately. So those are, and then confidential are also not part of the classified bargaining unit either.
So could you then, following up with what Ms. Alvarez says, could you bring back a motion that includes every employee regardless of their status in the union?
What we would do is I would seek approval on this one.
Yes.
As written, and I would bring back a separate one, and I will have to bring back one that's separate for classified. So they'll have their own, it'll be the same language, but they'll take out some of the other classifications. And then I can bring back another one that has just the substitute language on it. So we could do it that way. So this one would be approved, would be good for most employees, actually for all employees. I'll bring back those other two.
Are you saying, though, that this, in the way it's written, is covering folks who don't belong to the union?
Correct, it is.
The teachers who don't belong to the union?
That's correct. Anyone that's listed here under bullet point, if you see bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, currently active, classified, certificated, regular schedule, weekly classified and certificated hourly staff, those are all included.
Okay.
Can I would just like to add a recommendation regarding this, because we definitely would need to go back in and make sure we do this clean, because we could open up a possibility of like walk-on coaches and people like that, and then the budget would actually balloon. So we just want to do this really clean and clear. So that's my recommendation with this.
Yeah, if the board so chooses to approve this, this will cover all of our employees that are listed here. And it's maybe easier to look at question number 2, and then we will have to bring back language that clarifies for substitutes, so we make sure we're legally in good shape there. And then I will also have for you just to consider and approve the CSEA agreement, that they'll get approved by the CSEA regional office and their membership.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the one-time stipend of $750 in retro as syndicated for CSEA and SBTA and other employees as listed, and that you bring back at the next board meeting for the substitute teachers and other employees that may not be included in this MOU.
Bring that back on consent.
I'm fine bringing it on consent, but of course, if my colleagues agree, then that's fine with me.
Okay.
I can second that.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to number 6, the reorganization of early childhood education.
Okay, thank you. And this item was previously brought to the board for discussion, and I did receive feedback from the board and interest from the board to consider this particular reorganization. At that point, I did engage in several meetings with employees from both after-school programs and the early childhood programs. Actually, this input was really invaluable, and you'll notice some changes to the proposal based on some very important points that those employees made, and that was taken into consideration. We modified the proposal, and I'll walk you through a couple key points. If you first look at the diagram, it's just a table on the first page. It's up here on the overhead now. This is the current model, and it shows those two certificated positions underneath, one the after-school program and the other the early childhood program. That's how we currently operate. You'll notice at the bottom I put two, those are two certificated administrator management positions. It's the total cost. And then this current operational model does not have any classified management positions in it. If you scroll then to the proposed model, you'll notice that if you just go down a little bit so we can see that on this the other way. All right, well, you'll see here that so on the left there, you see the proposed model. This shows you a little bit of a reconfiguration of the two certificated administrator positions. They still exist as two, but there's a reconfiguration. One of them was changed into the director position, and the other one now bears the title of Early Childhood and After School Programs Coordinator, but it's certificated. So they're covering underneath the two programs that have our most of the need for and compliance needs around certificated management positions, which is something I learned a lot about in the last week or so. Then in the blue, you'll see the two additional, stay there on that table for a second. In the blue boxes, you'll see the two addition of the classified management positions. Of course, they're both vacant. They're proposed positions. And you'll see at the bottom now, the new proposal has two, again, same as the current model, two certificated management, but the addition is in the space of the two classified management positions. There was a couple points that staff, in the staff input meetings that were pretty resounding. There was resounding support for. One was the model of having a director position back. If you remember, that's the model that these programs had previously, and they were pretty unanimous about that coming back because it does. There were two reasons. One, they all really support the idea of Daisy Ochoa being reclassified into that position, but also it brings a more prominent place for these. Actually, it's got them split up into three programs, but the early childhood and after school, there's one person with a voice over both of those. It makes it more cohesive programming, and doesn't split the two up and have totally different administrators that are overseeing the program. So there was resounding support for that, and there was also resounding support for the addition of two classified management positions. And this was because there's a heavy concern among the employees within these two programs about the impending expansion of these programs. They are getting funds, but they are also being expected to expand, and they have serious concerns about the ability for us to manage these programs with only the two current certificated staff, management staff. So those were, that's what I wanted to share with you there. The other thing I wanted to share with the board, and then I'll open it for question, is about funding. The funding of this program, it's actually pretty unique. There's a bunch of different funding sources, none of which are the general fund. These are specific state grants that come in to fund after school and early childhood programs. And I did put in my report that currently sitting there is an addition of $800,000 that is ongoing funding, not one-time funding, but additional funding that that they received on top of their normal allocation. And that is where they are asking to be able to fund these 2 additional positions at the $171,000 total. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to the board for any questions that you might have.
Okay, I see that there's no public comment on this item. Dr. Becchio, I had a question about the early childhood and after-school program coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
That position is also vacant, correct?
That position is currently vacant, correct. It will be, well, if this is approved, we would have Daisy Ochoa assume the director position, which would make that other position vacant, correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Ford?
So can we go back to the table again? It looks like there are 2 vacant positions.
There are 2 classified management vacancies upon approval of this, and then there's the early childhood and after-school program coordinator vacancy.
So there will be 3 vacancies,
Correct.
actually. Okay. And that, those positions will be all open for interviews and
That's correct.
the whole process?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we actually have some applicants, so I would be doing some work with communicating with those applicants, changing the posting, and making sure those current applicants still, want the posting that's the new one, and then leaving it open, and then doing the recruitment, and then doing the selection process.
Thank you.
Ms. Alvarez?
The assumption that this is approved tonight, then you'll open it again. You'll open the new positions,
Yes.
right, and giving people the opportunity to apply and all that.
That's
good
correct.
process. Thank
Yep.
you. And also thank you very much for going back and including all the stakeholders that reached out and wanted to have input. So I really appreciate that. And I know we communicated a little bit about the interview committee. So when you do that, I appreciate your keeping in mind the people that will be working with this individual. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, with that, do I have a motion? Ms. Capps?
Yeah, so moved.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Becchio. Okay, I think that before we go on to the report discussion agenda, we'll take a short 10-minute break, and we'll be back. Thank you. Okay, now that we're back, we are going to go into the report and discussion agenda on number 1 about the window replacement options.
Good evening, President Munoz, board members, Executive Cabinet, Mr. Vance, and members of the public. Tonight, I'd like to report on our efforts to replace historical windows at Santa Barbara High School. And with us tonight is our architect on this project, Mr. Joe Wilcox from KBZ Architects, who is truly dedicated to Santa Barbara Unified School District. Do you want to stand up for a moment?
If you could put the microphone a little bit close, maybe a little bit higher.
Okay, is this better? Okay. So Joe Wilcox is from KBZ Architects. He is our project manager on this, he's our architect on this project, and he's been dedicated to Santa Barbara Unified School District for many years, working on many bond-funded projects with us. He is truly interested and invested in this project as all of us are, and we want to move this project forward. Next slide, please. So tonight I will be reporting on the state of wooden windows and the updated cost estimates for several replacement and repair options. Next slide, please. As you can see in this photo from Santa Barbara High School's main building, this actually two photos, there is considerable wear and tear on these wooden windows and their frames. Next slide. This slide shows priority sequence for addressing the windows. We have 3 priorities there. We have priority 1A and 1B. Those 2 are on the main building, as you can see from the schematic there. And priority 2 includes windows in the on the back side in 20's wing. The 20's wing is not a landmark building, as is the main building. Main building is landmarked by the city. Next slide. This slide shows the cost of replacement in the year 2020, because we have done several, we have done estimating in 2020. We have the numbers right here for priority 1A and 1B for 95 windows. We have the total estimate of $1,185,802. For priority 2, there are 34 windows. The total is $411,493. And for the total, combined total, is $1,597,295. That's the estimate that was obtained in November 2020. Next slide, please. So these are our current estimates. We have escalated costs there based on the current market conditions. These are for aluminum windows. We have some aluminum windows that we have installed, which I will show you in the slides next to this one. Because the prices for materials have risen in the last few months, and they've risen sharply and continue to rise. In today's market conditions, the estimate is about 8.6% higher than it was in 2020 for the same, In fact, that's the calculation, 8.6% higher. Next slide, please. So this option is to preserve. This option does not include the 20's wing. It only includes priority 1A and priority 1B. This is combined repair, replace with wood as a historical material on the building. And the combined total on that is $2,462,496. So the first floor windows to be repaired, that's 30 windows, and that's the facade part. And the second floor windows to be replaced, that's 27 windows, and that's the wood option there, without doing anything on the 20's wing. As you can see, there's a big price differential between wood and aluminum. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some pictures of priority 1A windows and 1B windows will be on the next slide. This is on the side of the main building. Next slide. This is the facade, and that was one of the options was to repair the first floor and replace the second floor. That's the facade windows. I think it would be, if I may render my opinion, it would be best to do everything in aluminum. Moving on, next slide, please. So this is, on the left side, we have this pilot project with aluminum windows, and you can see a very stark comparison with the existing and the pilot project. They don't require, this was done in 2018, they do not require any maintenance really except for cleaning. They look great, and people absolutely love them. We've heard from the community and from stakeholders, from constituents of Santa Barbara High School. There are many people who contacted us directly, and just when they meet us, they express their desire to have those windows everywhere. So on the right side, we have the wooden windows from the past, and so in our opinion, replacing those wooden windows with aluminum would work throughout the building. Next slide, please. These are some talking points, basically sort of a history on what's going on here as far as the project milestones. And we're just looking for direction from you for the next step on moving this project forward. So I wanted to put those out there for the record. I'm not gonna read all of them. But you can read them, and you can basically, I've addressed all of that. This, we've done all we could to move this project forward in the past, but there were some obstacles. I would like to ask you to see if you could help us move this forward as soon as possible. This concludes my report. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, we're here to answer. Joe Wilcox and I would be happy to take your questions.
Okay, thank you so much for your report. Seeing that there's no public comment on this, any questions, or Ms. Ford?
Thank you so much for moving forward on this. As you know, I've really been chomping at the bit to get this underway. I think the aluminum-clad windows are beautiful. I think the current windows are horrible, and I think the sooner that we do this, the better. I'd love to ask my fellow board members if we could just bring this back with an approval for aluminum-clad window replacement in the consent agenda for July.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Ms. Capps?
If you could just remind me, and I'm going to botch the name of the association, but basically the Historical Commission. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right name of it, but I know that they have been involved, and there was a meeting to give their impression. Do they have an opinion on wood versus aluminum?
So this was long time ago. There was back and forth.
Right.
I'm not sure what their current stance is. I know that there are several members who have different opinions. I believe they've expressed their opinions in the press and to you personally in their emails. Because I'm new, I'm not sure what happened before me, historically speaking. But that's, Joe Wilcox may have some insight into that.
Thank you.
Okay, regarding the pilot project, KBZ was not involved in that. The district did it themselves. I do know that the project manager took it to HLC, Historic Landmarks Committee.
Thank you for that.
They made some tweaks with little mullions and stuff, and I think they decided not to vote on it. That's happened to us before when we did the ramp for Santa Barbara Junior High. They didn't want the ramp at Santa Barbara Junior High, so they didn't vote on it. The access ramp to the entrance.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So if I would be supportive of the idea put forward by Ms. Ford with the clarification, if we can confirm if they took a vote on it, what the opinion is. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to abide by it, but it would be helpful information.
Right. One other clarification I would like to make is that these numbers were actually bids by Frank Skipper Construction. They weren't estimates. And in 2020, they had a lease back to do the aluminum, and it got pulled. So they went back and did more bids for the wood. So it's not just our estimator taking off counts. They actually got subcontractor bids.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Ford?
So, Mr. Wilcox, do those bids stand then, the ones that we just looked at?
Yes.
Okay.
You
Thanks.
have to ask Skipper for sure because things are changing daily, but I'm pretty sure they will stand. And Marina and Dave Hetyoung asked us to go to our cost estimator and take the 2020 aluminum estimate and have him update it to 2022. That's why we got that number.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so certainly has my support. I'm, familiar with Santa Barbara High School and how much the windows need to be repaired, replaced as soon as possible, and also before costs go up even more. So I don't have any concerns about it and would be wanting it brought, back as an action item as soon as we could.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now go to the first reading of the board policy regarding uniform complaint procedures. Ms. Harvey, thank you.
Good evening again. So this basically was, oh, I'm so sorry. This basically was a uniform complaint policy that was brought previously during the FPM review. And there were some pieces that needed to be updated after the fact that our reviewer in this area of UCP, uniform complaint policies, brought to us after the fact. So this is now the updated, approved stamp of approval from the state and the county. So there are pretty minor changes to the language, and I'm happy to speak to those if you would like me to. So, forgive me, it's tiny print. So it was the removal of any mention of a 15-day appeal timeline that was previously in place, and that has now been removed. Removal of the following language with paragraphs beginning with the verbiage, if a complaint alleging non-compliance with the laws regarding student fees, deposits, and other charges, ending with pupil fees, physical education instructional minutes, and or LCAPs. So with regard to those specific areas, add the following to the end of the document. So if you scroll, or if you look all the way at the bottom, under H4, these just needed to be added. A statement that in order to identify appropriate subjects of state preschool health and safety issues pursuant to section 1596.7925. Under W, a statement declaring that a complainant not satisfied with the resolution of the preschool program administrator, that statement needed to be added to W. X, a statement declaring that a complainant who is not satisfied with the resolution proffered. Again, it didn't change the content, it was just changing the verbiage at the beginning of the statement. And a statement declaring that the SSPI or his or her designee shall comply with the requirements of 5 CCR section 4633. So that was under Z, as in Z. Double A, a statement declaring that an LEA shall report summarized data on the nature and resolution of all state preschool health and safety issues and complaints. And BB, a statement declaring that all complaints and responses are public records. And those are the changes that needed to be updated.
Ford? Oh, yeah, no public comments? So go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Thank you so much. I would like to direct a question to Mr. Venz. In the past, what the board has received on a board policy change, and by the way, these are usually suggested by CSBA to us, so we get I think we might be way behind in those because we haven't approved policy changes for a long time. But aside from that, we used to get a copy of the policy with the suggested changes in a different ink color so that we could see very clearly what the changes were and know that they were recommended through the state by CSBA. So I'd love if that would happen in the future.
Yes, actually, I'm looking at the copy right now. I see strike-throughs, but I think that just to make it pop a little more, the other thing to be aware of that CSBA is actually what we don't want to guide off of. We want to guide off directly from CDE, because what they said specifically is CSBA, what you do is you actually take the language, the new language every year from CDE, and you apply it here. CSBA tended to be behind, and actually that's where we ended up getting some findings. And that came directly from CDE with their FPM leadership. So it's pretty clean, actually, because what they do is that every year they present, we get new language, we replace it, And then we can do exactly what you're recommending in terms of showing you what's the most recent change. So.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? No, okay. Thank you, Ms. Harvey.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, we will go to coming events. Any coming events anyone wants to share? No? Let's see, future agenda items. Let me see. Ms. Ford?
I think we received clarification on it, and I believe Ms. Capps made a recommendation or a request to add to the agenda item the replacement of her position. And it has to be an open session. I don't see it on the list.
Right, so I did mention it to Dr. Maldonado, and we will add it to
Great.
the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then, let's see, our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 19th. In July, we will only have the one meeting, and it will be, the regular board meeting will be at 5:30, and at that meeting, we will have both virtual participation for public comment and in-person participation. We will have the in-person first, and the virtual second. And we checked with legal, and we don't need to vote on that. So we'll go ahead and go with that. And with that, the board meeting's adjourned at 8:04. Thank you.